Hi everyone, my name is Isabella Reyes and I'm a neuroscience major and biology minor. For my senior thesis, I wrote a framework for creating a campus culture shift, a case study of disability awareness at Santa Clara University. This was under the mentorship of Dr. Christelle Sabatier and readers James Merrick and Dr. Naomi Andrews. Here's a picture of the hard copies of the framework that I will be providing an overview of today. I will be explaining what it is, what inspired the framework, and how it should be used. And at the end, I will include a link to view the completed version for those who want to read more. So for some background information about campus culture shifts, a campus culture shift is a significant change in the attitudes, practices, behaviors, and norms within a university community. And it starts with an idea supported by a dedicated team that is prepared to take action. Meaningful change happens gradually through the accumulation of small actions over time. Students can advocate for inclusivity and initiate their own culture shifts by focusing on areas that may need improvement to enhance sense of belonging. Growing up with a brother with autism, I was intimately exposed to the barriers that a person with a disability faces. And I asked how our campus supported people with disabilities and what more we could do to increase belonging here at Santa Clara. So for the past few years, I've been part of projects working with the disabled community, other allies, professors, and mentors to increase disability awareness across campus while also observing other diversity initiatives occurring. So for my thesis, I studied what made a sustaining and meaningful campus culture shift. For example, I noticed that some initiatives would not continue past student leaders graduating and saw what made them different from the initiatives that were continuing on and growing. So, to ensure that the legacy continues and to empower future students to bring light to their own aspect of diversity, I wrote this framework. So these are the objectives of the framework. First, it's to describe actions that contribute to a culture shift with respect to disability awareness at Santa Clara, but it's meant to be used on other campuses and for any aspect of diversity. It's also meant to equip students with a structured method for initiating and sustaining cultural changes, and to empower student leaders to address diversity and inclusion and also support ongoing inclusion efforts. The five components to consider will help students begin thinking of the possibilities on their own campus and for their own cultural identity of interest. After reading a component, students should begin answering the reflection questions. And to see an example of how the component was considered, there is a respective case study. The case studies are based on events experienced by the Santa Clara disabled community and allies that occurred between the years of 2022 and 2024. So I identified five components that I believe should be considered when creating a campus culture shift: student voices, creating an affinity group, academics, current approaches for program planning, and continuing the legacy. Each component has a list of questions to consider that are meant to give students ideas of how they can get involved and grow their own initiatives. For example, a question under the student voices component asks, are there discussions that can include your topic on campus? A question under academics asks, which faculty members could you contact to see if their course could be adapted to include your topic? And all these questions were based on successes and areas for improvement that I thought were most important to be considered. These are some of the case studies used to provide an example of how each component and the questions were thought about. For example, it talks about dialogues at the Office of Accessible Education that were held, creating the Disabled Students Union, the DSU, the first registered student organization to promote disability culture on campus, and a disability studies minor proposal. In the past 2 years, these efforts have already managed to influence the ecosystem at Santa Clara. However, more work remains, and only the seeds of change have been planted. various aspects of diversity still require recognition and integration into university practices all around the world. So I hope this framework is useful to others who seek to build on these efforts. I'd like to take this time to thank the Office of Accessible Education, the Office of Multicultural Learning, Dr. Molly King, and the SCU disabled community and allies for their help throughout. For those who would like to read the complete framework, you can scan the QR code here. Thank you.